So as always, whenever we're practicing and moving, anything you need for support this morning as we move. So if it's some pillows or blocks, if you have yoga props, great. If you don't, great. You can use anything around you to support you. If you think you'll get a little chilly as we start to cool down towards the end of our practice, you can have something nearby so you don't have to get up and get it. But just anything that will help support your practice this morning. We're going to start seated. So you can always sit up on a blanket or a pillow just to elevate the hips a little bit. If it feels okay, you can cross the legs. If that doesn't feel okay this morning, you can always just keep the legs extended in front of you. But just starting to come to a comfortable place to start. You can move around a little bit when you first arrive, just kind of tune in with your body this morning. Allow your hands to come wherever's comfortable. And just start to settle into your practice. You are welcome to close your eyes, or you can keep the gaze soft. Release the shoulders away from the ears. Soften the jaw. And just start to check in with your body and your breath this morning. Just feeling the air move in and out of your lungs. Taking a few more moments here, settling in. Let's take 2 more rounds of breath. Deep inhales and deep exhales. Nice deep inhale and exhale. You're welcome to keep your eyes closed if that feels comfortable for you this morning. You can just start to let the fingertips dangle by your side. Just roll the shoulders back. It can be really big circles, they can be little circles. It's okay if there's a little snap, crackle, pop. And reverse direction. And then let the fingertips dangle back to the ground. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up, stretch it nice and tall and long. And release the arms down. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. And release the arms down. One more. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. And release the arms down. And then just allow your hands to come to the tops of the knees or the thighs if your legs are straight. And we're gonna take a couple of seated cat-cows. So start to tuck the chin to the chest, round the spine. Really feel like you're trying to create a lot of space in the back body. And then start to find that total opposite motion. Feel your heart and chest expand. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Maybe the gaze looks up a bit. Then again, use your breath to guide you. So start to round the spine. You can really exaggerate these movements this morning. And then open the heart. Feel that expansion across the chest. We'll take one more around the spine. And then open the heart. And come all the way back to neutral. And if you have your legs crossed, go ahead and extend them long. And if they've been extended, maybe you just kind of shake them out a little bit. You can take them a little wide. They don't need to be super wide. You want a little space between the inner legs. And then just relax the feet. So sometimes we instinctively want to just activate and strengthen. And I want you to just find a little bit of relaxation through the legs here. And sit the spine up nice and tall. So pretend like there's a string at the top of the head and you're just trying to lengthen. You can still be sitting on something to elevate the hips, or you can add something if you didn't have something before and you like it now. You don't have to stay where you start. You can always add or take away whatever you need. And just start to reach the arms all the way up to the sky, just like we did before. But this time, as we release the arms down, we're going to twist to the right. So maybe that twist just brings your torso towards the right foot. Maybe you go a little bit further. You can let your hands rest on the ground or the leg to just help support you. Still focusing on lengthening the spine and opening the heart towards the right side. So feel a little expansion across the chest. One more breath. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up, come back to center. And we'll twist over to the left. So again, it could be a little twist, it could be a big twist, it could be a middle twist. The sides might feel a little different in terms of how far your rotation wants to go this morning. Really focusing on lengthening the spine. So that way that rotation is coming from the spine. And inhale, come all the way back to center. Reach the arms up, grow really tall, really lengthen through the sides of the body. And then bring the hands down towards the ground, right in between the insides of the legs. And just start to hinge a little bit at the hips. So you can use the hands to support you. You can always have the hands rest on the legs, or even throw a pillow or a pet underneath your hands. And it's up to you if you want to have a little bit more length through the spine as you hinge, or if that rounding feels good in your body this morning. Sometimes for me, if my back is feeling really tight, the rounding feels good for me. And then other times, just kind of finding that length feels good. So you can always play. And it doesn't matter how far you go. It can be a centimeter, it can be a few inches. Tune in with your breath. One more breath here. We're not going to lift ourselves up quite yet, so kind of stay in that leaning forward, but then just start to walk the heart towards the right. So it's a little bit of a twist, a little bit of a side stretch. And it doesn't matter how far you go. You don't have to go all the way to the leg, depending on where your leg is at. It's just adding a little more stretch on the lower left side. And again, you decide how far you want to go. And even if you start to go that way and you're feeling okay, but you don't want to be so far forward anymore, you can always bring yourself back. Or if you feel like you have more space, you can bring yourself forward. Just one more breath, and then we're going to move over to the other side. Walk the hands back through center. You might pause in the center, or you might just keep on going and go towards the left. And just always be mindful the sides are going to feel a little different. They're going to have different abilities and places where they can go. Tune in with your breath. Check in with your body. Couple more here. And then walk your hands back to the middle and start to lift yourself all the way up. As you come to lengthen the spine, if there is any movement that your body's kind of craving, even if it's just like a weird wiggle, yeah, go ahead and take it. You can shake out the legs. And we'll start to change a position and come onto our hands and our knees. So as we make our way into a tabletop position, you can always slide a little extra support, a pillow or a blanket underneath the knees, especially if you're on a harder surface. And then I always offer the option, if being on your palms is not feeling good for you, you can always drop onto your forearms. It's going to remind you to engage the belly a little bit more, so that way you're not putting the back into an arch. You've got a little bit more length. But always yogi's choice. Check in with what feels good for you today. And just like when we were sitting, we're going to move into a couple of cat cows, and they'll probably feel a little different in this new position. So start to round the spine, press the floor away. Really let the head get heavy. And then we'll find that opposite as you drop the belly button towards the floor, squeeze the shoulder blades together, look a little forward. And then take a couple more rounds. Moving the spine, using your breath to guide you. Let's finish up your next round. Then we'll start to come back to a nice neutral tabletop position. So again, remember, you can always stay on your palms. You can drop onto your forearms. You can pause and come out of it completely. We'll just start to extend your right leg back. So you're going to keep the toes hooked onto the floor. Most like you're going to set yourself up for plank pose, but we're not going to do plank pose. And just start to press the heel back. And you might press back and hold, or you can always rock in and out. Nice stretch through the back of the calf. And then start to steady, find a balance. So you might feel a little off center because one leg is a different position than the other, but just start to float that foot up off of the floor. So it might float an inch, it might lift a little higher. You can play with it. The floor is right there if you need to put it back down at any point. Find the balance in the hands, or if you're on your forearms, in the forearms. We're just gonna find steady here just for one more breath, really working that power. And release the knee down. Any movements between sides, you can always lift up off the hands for a moment. Whatever your body is craving. And we'll make our way back to that tabletop position if you shifted out of it. And this time extend the left leg back. Keep the toes hooked onto the floor. And start to press the heel back. So remember, you can press and hold, or you can rock. Your calves are feeling really tight. Sometimes the rock feels much nicer because it's just nice and slowly stretching and releasing. And then start to steady. And just allow that foot to float up off the floor. So again, it doesn't matter how high it's floating. Use your breath. Feel all of your muscles strengthening, and you might feel it a lot more in that right hip. You're balancing. One more breath. And release the knee down. Again, anything you need to rinse out. We'll start to come into a child's pose. So in your child's pose, you can always throw something underneath your belly or your forehead, or even behind the knees. If this doesn't feel comfortable on the knees, you can sit, you can kneel, just anywhere. You can lay on your belly, anywhere that you feel like you can pause for a moment. Let's take 2 more breaths wherever you're at. And you'll start to bring yourself back through your tabletop position. You can take anything you need on the way there. And we'll start to move that tabletop position into a downward facing dog. So if having that more inversion doesn't feel good in your body, meaning the heart will be above the head, you can always stay in your tabletop position. That's our alternative for down dog. Or you can come into that upside down V. Yogi's choice, you know your body best. When you first get there, you might bend the knees a little bit. Really feel the hips push up and back. So lots of power and strength here. Just one more breath. And then just start to walk your feet towards your hands. And then when they feel like they can't go any further, walk your hands to your feet. So if you see it in that tabletop because you don't like that inversion, it doesn't feel good for your body, you want to stay more in kind of like a halfway lift, so almost like a silly squat. If it feels okay, you can release the head and the neck. Totally up to you. The hands can rest wherever's comfortable and take the feet a little wide. And just start to walk your upper body towards the right. So remember when we were seated and we had our legs wide, we added a little twist. It's the same thing, we're just in a different position, in a different plane. And again, you can always stay towards that halfway lift and just kind of turn the heart towards the right, or you can release the head and the neck. And then come back to the middle and go over to the left. And it's okay if your knees are bent. It's okay if your hips kind of twist a little bit with you. Come back towards the middle, bend into the knees, press into the feet, and start to rise all the way up to stand. And it's always when my head gets cut off. So just standing nice and tall, and your feet can stay a little wide. And again, just as we change planes, as we move, just observe, be curious. You can always rock a little bit. Let's take 2 breaths, just pausing here before we move on. And let's reach the arms all the way up to the sky. Grow really tall and long. And lean over to the right. So you can clasp the hands. You can just keep the hands separate and lean. Come back to the middle and over to the left. Come back to the middle. Let's go over to the right again. Back to the middle and over to the left. Come back to the middle, release the arms. You might roll the shoulders a little bit. And then start to bring your feet closer together. You can be facing towards the short side of your mat or just wherever you feel steady in your space. And they don't have to be touching. They can be about hip width apart. So think like your feet are on a little bit of train tracks. And step your left foot as back as far as it wants to go, and you can start to bend into the right leg. Your hands can stay on your hips. You're on a little bit of a balance here, so you can find something in front of you that's not moving to help steady you. And then maybe you start to bend into that front knee a little bit more. Maybe you kind of just nice and slowly bend it and straighten it a little bit. Use your breath, one more. Maybe you reach the arms up to the sky if you're feeling good here. And then bring the hands back to your hips, look forward, and start to step your left foot back to meet your right. So it could take a couple of steps to get there. Take a moment, observe any difference in the sides. Take a breath here. And then you're keeping your feet on those train tracks. And this time you're gonna step the right foot back. So moving towards this high lunge, whatever your high lunge looks like today. Your sides are totally different. You can start to bend into the left leg. And again, you can always play and kind of just slowly move into it. Use your breath. Maybe the hands reach up to the sky for the final breath here. Okay, if you fall out of it, and just bring yourself back. Bring your hands back to your hips and step all the way forward. So it doesn't matter if it takes 50 taps of the toe to get there. And then just take a moment standing nice and tall. One more breath here. Let's reach the arms all the way up to the sky. And then start to bring the hands towards the ground. And remember, if you don't want to go all the way towards that, a little bit of inversion, you stay halfway. I just want you to come to a place where you can bring the hands to the ground and come back to a tabletop position. And that doesn't even have to be fancy. If you don't want to reach the arms up and fold, just go ahead and bring yourself to a tabletop. And let's find a pause again. So that pause can be child's pose. That pause can be seated. That pause can be on your belly. Just take a moment. And tune in with the breath. One more. Begin to make your way back towards your table. Again, taking that table however you need today. And just like we did before, you're gonna extend the right leg back, except maybe this time it stays floating right away. And then start to bring the knee towards the left. I'm sorry, the right. Don't do the left. Same side. And you'll begin to step that foot onto the ground. So it might take a few steps to get there, but I want you to think wide. So think that that foot's trying to go towards like the outside of the right hand or the outside of your mat. And you'll eventually start to walk that foot forward. So you've got a nice bend in the right leg. If the floor is really far away for your hands now, you can always sit yourself up, or you can bring something underneath your hands, like a pillow, a book, blankets. And I want you to feel like the hips are trying to come forward. We're moving towards our lizard pose. And again, just like we were doing before, if it doesn't feel good to just kind of get into it and stay, you can always rock in and out of it. Let's do one more breath. Always slide something underneath the back knee too. As you come forward, you want to feel like you're coming off of the knee a little bit. And then to come out, you're going to pull yourself back and then just slide that right foot back. And let's pause again before we do the other side. So again, pause can be a child's pose. It can be laying on your belly. And just think about just kind of taking some of the weight off of the hands and the knees for a moment. And after you finish your next round of breath, start to make your way back towards that tabletop. You'll extend the left leg back. Maybe this foot stays floating right away. You know where we're going, but still moving really intentionally. Bring the left knee towards the left side, same side, and you'll start to bring the foot towards the ground. So it can kind of slowly just hop its way up there. Or it could be in one step or two steps. Your sides are totally different. Go ahead and think wide. So think that that foot is towards the outside of your left hand, towards the outside of your mat. Go ahead and bring anything underneath the hands that you need to just make your arms a little longer. You can also just be upright. Always an option. And then start to feel the hips shift forward. So maybe they shift forward and stay. Or maybe you rock back and forth. Use your breath, check in, just a couple more here. And start to shift the hips back. Slide your left foot all the way back. And this time we're all gonna take that pause, laying on our belly. So you can make a pillow with the hands, or you can have the arms by the side. You can rock your hips a little bit from side to side. You can allow the head to be heavy. If you look at me and see that I'm a little elevated, it's just so that way you can hear me. Just take a moment to adjust to this new plane. And start to lean a little bit to the right, and you're gonna, I'm sorry, a little bit to the left, and you're gonna bend your right knee. So that way the inside of the leg comes to the floor. If you've taken class with me before, this should be familiar to you. Now, if as you do this, it's too much, I don't want you to put a prop underneath the knee. That's actually going to make it deeper. I just want you to roll a little bit to the left side. That's going to help change the angle of the stretch. We're not going to be here too long, just a few breaths. Last breath here. And start to slide your right leg back to meet your left. Pause for a moment. And then you'll come into the other side. So you'll bend your left leg, bringing the knee out to the side. Again, if you want to change the angle, you can roll a little bit to your right side. And just allow your body to be heavy here. Just a couple more breaths. And after your next breath, slowly start to slide your left leg back to meet your right. Pausing on your belly. And then bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Press yourself up to a tabletop. That's probably the hardest part of class. And you're going to make your way into a seated position. So the same way we started. So again, you can always throw something underneath your hips if you need something on your way to seated, like some cat-cows or some wiggles. Feel free to take it. If I don't offer something that your body's craving, you can ignore me for a minute and take it. So you can bring your hands behind you and just gently lean back on your hands for a moment so you can bring the soles of the feet towards the floor. So it doesn't matter how wide your feet are, it doesn't matter how close your feet are to your body. And you're gonna rock the knees over to the right side. So as you do that, you're actually gonna lift up that left hip so you can bring the knees to the right side. So your right leg is in this external rotation and your left leg is in internal rotation. Now options, if this left leg is really bothersome, you can always go a little bit and slide some support underneath here, or if this, you're just like, I don't like this on my knee today, just extend your leg. We're gonna focus on kind of turning a little bit towards the right, and that might be enough. You might just stay right here and just kind of close your eyes and breathe and tune in. Or you might lean a little bit towards the right. So I want you to feel the foot just a little bit away from the body. So especially if that left leg is straight instead of bent, I don't want that foot tucked in, just a little bit out. You can keep the foot gently flexed. It helps protect the knee. You can always put a prop underneath the right knee. If I ever forget to mention where you can put props, you can put props anywhere. If the leg is straight, you can always put it, and you want it a little support, you can always throw a prop underneath the knee. Almost think of this as like a funky pigeon type pose. Your hips don't have to stay rooted on the ground, so especially if the left leg is also bent, that left hip is most likely going to come off the floor, and that's fine. We're not here for too long, just about 3 more breaths. Last breath. If you're leaning forward, regardless of where your legs are, just start to lift yourself up. If your left leg is bent, you can kind of lean back on your hands, and you're literally just going to bring the knees up so they can rotate to the other side. If the left leg was straight as you come up, you can start to bring the right foot on the ground, bend the left leg, and then move over to the other side. So if you want to straighten the right leg this time, go for it. It doesn't matter if you did or did not on the first side. The sides are going to need different things. Throw some props underneath you wherever you need. You're going to feel your torso kind of move over towards the left shin more, and then maybe lean a little forward. And again, always have that right leg straight. Tune in with your breath. Last couple of breaths here. And slowly start to lift yourself up. Same way you came out of the other side, if the leg is straight or if the knee is bent. After this, we're gonna actually lay on our backs. So start to make your way all the way to lay down on your back. Whatever you want on the way there. And when you arrive on your back, hug your knees into your chest. Just squeeze them in tight. If you know you like props for Shavasana, make sure that you have those within hand's reach and hopefully don't have to get up to get them. And any other things that you want here on your back before you settle into Shavasana. Maybe it's a little twist. Maybe you just want to stretch the body long and tall. Few more breaths, whatever you're needing before you meet that Shavasana. Yeah. And starting to make your way into your Shavasana. So that Shavasana can look like anything really. You can be on your back. You can slide something underneath the legs. You can throw your legs up the wall or on a couch or a chair. You can even be in a fetal position on the side. If you're not sure where to go, just take a moment, check in with your body. Where is a place where it can feel comfortable today? Where is a place where you can pause and release and take some time in gratitude for your practice? Shavasana.
Starting to bring some awareness back into your body. Noticing your next breath. Starting to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Rocking your head from side to side. Stretching your arms up overhead, taking a full body stretch. Starting to roll onto your side if you are on your back. Making your way, no rush, up into a seated position, keeping the focus inside. Bring your hands into your heart center, gently bowing your head. Thanking yourselves for making it to your mat today, for your practice, for your energy, for your breath, and most importantly, for yourself. Namaste.